Hey everybody, it's Master Gallengeist here, bringing you my review for Leviathan Falls, the 9th book in the Expanse series, and this is the end. And I enjoyed reading it, but as I had finished its main issue for me is that it doesn't develop enough of the kind of things that we need for the proto-molecule and the ring gate entities. It actually probably would have been better if it focused more on the politics things side of it, with like Laconia and the underground and all that kind of stuff, and what kind of goes on with that, because that is the least kind of fleshed out kind of thing, and kind of is the one that spins its most wheels as we do things, because as I explain what kind of goes on in this plot, it's mainly wheel spinning until we get to like the only logical place that we got, and we could have gone to a lot of different kind of places as well, because we spend most of our time about what kind of goes on with like Laconia, the underground, how they focused more on their system. Everybody's kind of like nutty doodah with the ring gate entities doing their experiments. We get one experiment that works out and really does kill all the humans in one of the systems, and they try and figure out what's kind of going on with that. We focus mainly on Elvie a little bit. We get Elvie, Jim, Naomi, Alex, Teresa, and then Tanaka. Tanaka was one of the characters that was mainly introduced in Book 7. And she's a good character to hate, but they really... I would almost have thought that like Bobby would have been a better one to have had this kind of journey than her. It's just mainly... they just kind of fuck with her a lot. She's tasked with like Omega level status of going to find Winston Duarte, the High Council, and because he got out of his funk and like disappeared. He like appears to trail and is like, yeah, I was thinking too small. And his whole thing is to pretty much make a hive mind of the human race and fight the ring entities. And we only really at the end of the book pretty much get the whole kind of confirmation that it's probably the proto-molecule that he's put in himself that has pretty much gotten him on this kind of course of action. Because nobody has been like, what if we turn the ring gate things off and not use that shit? Because that pretty much seems to be what's pissing off the fucking things in there. Because we learn throughout the course of the novel, well, not even the course of the novel, it gets kind of weird here. Alright. Because Kara and Zahn from Laconia, they're pretty much in this side book that I didn't read, but if you watch season 6 of The Expanse, for some reason their shit's put in there. And that's only useful if you actually have any inkling of trying to adapt these last 3 books. Otherwise, you've just wasted time of that season dealing with that. Sorry, that's a weird thing, but their whole thing was to pretty much go to the giant diamond thing that they call the big fucking emerald and have her dive in to get information from the builders of the rings. She doesn't really get much and is instead pretty much enraptured by pretty much the information overload. Amos, at a certain point, is like, hey guys, we kind of have to go there and kind of deal with this, and then he pretty much tells Elvie to stop these experiments. She shouldn't be doing them like this. It's compromising her ethics and Kara, and they stop that. And of course Kara's pissed off, and we also see that Amos has the proto-molecule having changed him. Interestingly enough, we don't have them trying to utilize the ring gates to destroy the ring entities. So whatever the proto-molecules drones that repaired them didn't affect them in that way. And I don't mind them balancing back and forth of, is this Amos, Kara, and Zahn? But for the most part, they are them. They're just changed a little bit. Like anybody kind of like going through changes, like, alright, I do like the existential question, but it's kind of just hammered on a little bit too much to a point that's not really given much except other like, are they these people? Because Amos survives getting killed again. And it really affects Kara because she's in a dive, and she's like, holy fucking shit! And the thing is, they're kind of connected enough that they're connected to Duarte, but yet they don't know what to do with Duarte. And the thing is, Tanaka's pretty much fucking around until it gets to the point it's like, oh, his little egg ship that he took from Laconia is at the ring station. And then we just go back to the ring station like we did when the ring station was opened, with like the whole Eris incident, and going into the slow zone and everything, and dealing with it there. I don't mind rings and symmetry of like coming back to where you started. It's all down into the execution, and here the execution felt off for me, more kind of fan servicey, because we get that Teresa's been on the Rocinante for a year. The Rocinante crew do a little birthday party for her, which is really kind of cute and awesome, and shows the difference between her 15th birthday, where she was like the head the High Consul's daughter, and here where people actually care about her. And then we get Tanaka doing all this kind of stuff, and we just get the kind of back and forth with some interesting fights. We get Alex's kid, Kit, deciding to go into, like, he has a baby, decides to take his baby to a new kind of colony world. Their ship almost goes Dutchman, but Duarte's been on the ring station and decides, I'm going to do this thing, and pretty much activates the ring stations in such a way to start making pretty much connections with people and create this hive mind thing, which is never really explained why it was able to stop a ship going Dutchman and repairing it and having this whole kind of hive mind thing, which is affecting Kit, his baby, his wife, and all that kind of stuff. And everybody's like, we gotta do this. And it also affects Tanaka, and we see her being like, I need to keep all my secrets and stuff. And granted, the showing of the hive mind threat to humanity totally makes sense, alright? That is a very big thing. You lose your individuality, you're doing the same things that the proto-molecule builders would do, and who gives a shit if we've got the bodies that we do. They were able to be taken out by these ring entities because you're encroaching on their universe, as we get explained that the proto-molecule builders broke the universe. They like cracked into something they really shouldn't have done, and that's what kind of pretty much got them wiped out. They're actually utilizing this other dimension that the ring entities are from to power everything that's going on with it. It's like, yeah, okay. And we see that Duarte's like, I'm going to utilize all this stuff, but it's never, he never really explains what he's able to utilize to fight the ring entities. It's like, okay, it's kind of an important part of the plan that kind of needs to be explained, because he activates the rings and they start glowing and everything. But we see that that starts linking up with Amos going there. Naomi actually accepts Treo's offer, because at first he was doing a subterfuge kind of thing, but Tanaka is a loose cannon in a sense to start killing people. She tried to get Teresa on this pretty much girls' school that they were going to drop her off to, but that went sideways. She pretty much killed Amos, who came back. Jim shot her in the face, and that kind of perpetually pissed her off, which I kind of get, but she's like she's like Bobby without any moral restraint, which is why I'm like, even though she got a good death in the 8th book, if it had been retooled better, I think that her death here would have been a lot better off. Because we get endings that are kind of fucking weird here, and kind of fan servicey, especially the last bit one that we kind of get. And that's me coming from me who likes these characters. Jim's makes sense, but the way it goes down is what I'm like, so, Tanaka deals with that and tries to deal with everything going on with all the hive mind things. Naomi tries to link up. She links up with Elvie and Treo. Treo pretty much sits in a corner and does fuck all nothing. And then Duarte is like there. They try and get to the ring station. Be like, hey, let us the fuck in. And he's like, fuck that noise. They pretty much try and use Amos and Clara to kind of get in, but Duarte's like, fuck, yo, shit, I got this, fuck, yo, shit. And it's like, that's not kind of working. That's really not kind of good. And then he starts sending, like, all these people that he's hive mind to, like, take their asses out. So Jim gets the bright idea to inject himself with active protomolecule to bring back Miller Ghost. And it's just like, oh, okay. And then essentially using Miller Ghost protomolecule to open up the base and get them into Duarte. It just felt very fan servicey. I'm like, I liked Miller. I liked the ending that we kind of got with Miller on Illis. and everything that went on with that. This just felt... It didn't feel as well executed as it should have, and felt more like, oh yeah, we're coming to the end. Let's bring back Miller. It's like, I'm not liking how this is working. And him and Jim kind of like fucking around, and Jim just like starting to kind of like change, but not change a lot. They get through. Tanaka's like the one that's on point now, and taking Teresa with him to try and like either take the console in or like deal with it. And Teresa tries to talk her dad out, but she's like, nah, this is going to be alright. And she's trying to like rip all this stuff out. And this, of course, institutes an endgame kind of scenario where Tanaka's pretty much going through and taking out these kind of sentinels before they capture her. She gets onto Duarte and just like beats the shit out of him and rips everything up and kills him, which kills herself in the process. And then Jim decides to take over the station and is able to push back the ring entities, get Teresa off, and then destroys the station and stops it. And Miller, of course, is giving him shit. He's like, oh, you talked about everybody making the best decision with the information they've got, and you're making this decision for everybody. It's like, there are things that are trying to kill humanity. This is stuff that we found that we really shouldn't be doing. He's like, yeah, you're consigning these systems. They're not all of them are self-sufficient. It's like, but it's the best, worst option he's got, and he does it. And the thing is, we then see that the group splits up. Alex gets the Rossi and decides to live and go into the system. Everybody's like, pick whatever system you want, go there, you're staying there. And Amos and Muskrat and Teresa get on the Falcon, and Naomi as well, and they go to Soul System. He goes to Kit's system, and Kit's chapters are kind of wasted. I understand that they're doing it to understand Kit's kind of mindset and what he's kind of doing, but I could have really done without it. Mainly because it doesn't achieve much and could have been better utilized in other kind of things. It's really kind of weird. I still enjoyed this one, but I think it's a weak ending to the series. Mainly because of its execution, not because of how the things worked out. I'm fine with Alex getting the Rossi and going and living with his son. That's fine. Just how it kind of worked out and how its mechanics worked out was just like, alright. And even to do that, I don't really need Kit's kind of perspective to understand that. Alex just wanting to be with his family would have just been enough for that. However, I would have liked a little bit more pages devoted to him kind of maybe wrestling with that in the moment. He does wrestle with it, but I don't really needed Kit's kind of thing of what was going on with that. So we see Teresa freaking out because she's lost her father. She's losing her ship, her home that she's had for a year. But they go to Seoul and trying to figure out what's kind of done. Laconia's pretty much got Treyo and the rest of them dealing with what they got. And it's like humanity now has to figure out its own kind of stuff and probably not utilize tools that break the fabric of reality. The fabric of reality. And Jim going out like that's fine. But having Ghost Miller there worked against it for me rather than with it. I felt that we had that closed off well enough, and I think there were other kind of ways to potentially go about this that could have probably worked out better than just having Jim. And it's almost like it got into plot demandsy territory where they didn't know exactly what they needed to do. So like, let's have Jim inject himself with the proto-molecule and go out like a hero like that. It's like, I don't mind him going out like a hero. Him doing the sacrificial play and doing this and letting humanity stand on its own, that is still true to his ethos, even though Miller was kind of Ghost Miller. Proto-molecule thingy in his head was giving him shit about it. He still stuck true to his ideals and shut down the shit that was being toxic and going to institute a death game scenario of humanity. Of like, yeah, some of them might not survive, some of them might scrap up and be able to get a thing, but it's to them now, instead of them wondering when the dark entities will take them, or be a hive mind, or any of that other shit, because Jim was then tempted with it. He didn't have enough time for the proto-molecule to be like, yeah, why don't you hive mind and fucking kill those motherfuckers, because they're not letting us use their kind of free energy shit. It's like, you're not free energy and shit, you broke into a fucking universe and fucking utilized their energy shit. Kind of to a degree. That's at least how I got the interpretation of what was fucking going on. And then, so that's that. We got them to say goodbye and everything. It mainly ends off with Naomi being like, we'll find our own way back to them, to the stars. And then we get the linguist, which is this person, Morel, who humanity, like 30 colonies have linked up. They're able to do faster than light. He gets to Earth, trying to run through the languages and everything, and we find out that it's Amos Burton as the last man standing, and that it's been 1,000 years. And it's like, oh, okay. Not the ending I would have picked for Amos. I mean, I'm glad that he survived, but this is an interesting kind of conundrum that I have, especially when writing certain kind of stuff. And how characters have their endings. It's very hard to give characters good endings. Amos pretty much dying, I think, would have worked out for him. Or being himself. Now, granted, he's still himself, but him being this kind of ageless protector of humanity isn't something that I thought worked for him. Now, granted, him like building and getting to that point, that's the kind of journey I think I would have liked to see. But just having it plopped at the end felt more fan servicey of like everybody that liked Amos, rather than the natural kind of conclusion for it. More plot demands than natural consequence of the plot and character choices. If that makes sense. I mean, it's just how it's kind of written and showed. It's like, alright, okay. It's just weird. It's like, okay, and then they're trying to figure out what to do and how to kind of communicate and what to kind of do from here. Let's see. Because the linguist is able to talk to him and everything. I love it because, now granted, how Amos ends it, great, Amos Burton said when he was done. Now we get this, now we got that shit out of the way. Follow me, we'll grab a few beers and get reacquainted. To like, get humanity back to this kind of point and see where it kind of goes from here. Because enough of the systems work together to figure out faster than light travel. It took them like 31 days to get to Earth, which is fucking nuts. It's really weird. I'm still probably thinking and processing about it because I just finished this pretty much this week. But Amos being the last one standing like that in that way, there's just some tweaks that needed to be done to make it feel better for me. Again, I don't totally hate it, but I'm not totally comfortable with it either. It's a very strange kind of way to end it. Yeah. Yeah, it's always weird for me to try and articulate it, because my problems with it are just how off it's like, okay, yeah, he got resurrected by the protomolecule. I just didn't know what the natural kind of end would be for him. I would have to think about that. Like, him going out, kind of like Bobby, probably was the natural kind of end that I would think would work for him. Or how he kind of presented himself to Teresa, where he's kind of like old sage mode and then passes on his learnings to next generations or whatnot, which you kind of get here. But it's just, again, it's presentation and it's execution of what kind of goes on. So, well, there's not really kind of a scene, it's just trying to explain it. So, Soul worked out well enough. We'll see what, and so did the other ones. I don't know. I'm not, again, I liked how certain ones ended. We don't really get much on Naomi, otherwise that she went to Soul with Amos and Teresa and Muskrat, and all we get is Amos and that the rest of the colony, like 30 colonies, have been able to build up to faster than light travel. So it's cool, gives a bright spot for humanity, and I kind of like that a lot, especially with how the balancing of this story has been throughout these 9 books of the darkness of humanity and the best of humanity as well. So I kind of like that little bit of edging of the best, even in shitty kind of situations. So I still would recommend this, but I do think that this ending is weaker than it could have been. Like, it's weaker than I would like. But if you liked it and you enjoyed it, I'm happy for you, okay? Always, if there's better ways for you to explain it or whatnot, cool. I'm always looking to see those different kind of perspectives, but it just didn't work with me as well as I wanted to. And that happens, so yeah. So those are my opinions on the book. Tell me what you guys think in the comments below. If you liked it, if you didn't like it, if you agree with me, if you disagree with me. Also like and subscribe, and I hope you have a good day.